First contact and warning. Dr. Elena Santos stared at her monitor in the silence of the Arecibo Observatory's control room, her coffee growing cold beside her keyboard. The signal pattern she'd been tracking for the past 3 hours defied natural explanation. It was too structured, too precise, and it was getting stronger. "Hey Marcus, can you verify something for me?" She called to her research partner. Dr. Marcus Chen looked up from his own workstation, his eyes heavy from the late-night shift. But something in Elena's voice made him move quickly to her side. The pattern pulsed across her screen in regular intervals, but with subtle variations that suggested complexity beyond anything they'd seen before. "This isn't random noise," Marcus whispered, leaning closer. "How long has it been repeating?" "First noticed it about 3 hours ago. But look at the timestamp. It's been building for days, just below our standard detection thresholds." Elena pulled up the historical data, showing how the signal had gradually strengthened. "And it's not coming from any known stellar body." As they watched, the pattern suddenly shifted, becoming more complex but somehow more coherent. Numbers began appearing in their data stream. Mathematical constants, prime numbers, then simple equations, a clear attempt at communication. "We need to contact Dr. Patel," Marcus said, reaching for his phone. But Elena grabbed his wrist, stopping him. "Wait, look at this." She pointed to a new sequence emerging on her screen. The mathematical patterns were being replaced by something else, recognizable symbols, then words in multiple Earth languages. "Warning. Danger. Invasion imminent." The message repeated in Mandarin, Russian, Arabic, Spanish, and a dozen other languages. Then came more detailed text in English. "To the inhabitants of Earth, I am Commander Vela of the Krylax Empire's Third Fleet. By sending this warning, I commit treason against our supreme overlord. Your world has been chosen for conquest. The main fleet approaches. You have 90 days." Elena and Marcus exchanged stunned looks as more data poured in. Technical specifications, tactical information, detailed files on Krylax military capabilities and weaknesses. Every transmission was encoded with authentication markers that proved their artificial origin. "This can't be a hoax," Marcus said, his scientific skepticism warring with the evidence before them. "The signal's coming from beyond Neptune's orbit. And these technical specs, they're internally consistent, but centuries beyond our current understanding. And getting more detailed by the minute," Elena added, her fingers flying across her keyboard as she archived everything. "Look at these schematics. Their ships use some kind of crystalline computing architecture. Incredibly advanced. But what? But rigid. Their whole system seems built on perfect mathematical patterns. No redundancy, no adaptation." She pointed to a section of technical data. "Their strategic protocols are the same way. Absolutely optimal for known scenarios, but terrible at handling the unexpected." The control room's red emergency line began ringing. Dr. Patel had been automatically notified of the signal's strength. Within hours, observatories worldwide would confirm their findings. Within days, governments would be mobilizing. But Elena kept focusing on the data, her mind racing ahead. "They're expecting an easy conquest because they think we're primitive," she said, more to herself than Marcus. "But look at these systems. They're like perfect crystalline structures. Beautiful, powerful, but brittle. They've optimized themselves into a corner." "And we're anything but optimized," Marcus said, beginning to understand. "We're messy, adaptable. We're chaos theory in action." Elena finished, a slight smile forming despite the gravity of the situation. "They're coming to conquer us because they think we're primitive. But they don't understand. Our primitive nature might be exactly what they're not prepared to handle." As if confirming her words, new data streamed in, more tactical information, security protocols, communication frequencies. Commander Vela's final message followed. "Your species has qualities we lost long ago. Creativity, adaptability, the ability to embrace chaos and change. You'll need all of them to survive. Make my sacrifice matter." The signal cut off abruptly. Alina and Marcus sat in silence for a moment, the weight of what they'd discovered settling over them. Humanity had just received its first confirmed contact with alien intelligence, and with it, a countdown to invasion. "We should be terrified," Alina said quietly, still staring at her screen. "But you know what? I think they should be the ones who are afraid. They're expecting simple primitives, but they're about to learn what happens when you back humanity into a corner." Marcus nodded, already starting to send secure alerts to other observatories and research stations. "What's that saying? The most dangerous thing in the universe is a human being who has no choice but to solve a problem." "Exactly," Alina replied, beginning to organize the vast amount of tactical data they'd received. "They're coming to conquer Earth because they think we're too primitive to be a threat. Instead, they're going to learn that humanity's greatest strength is exactly what they see as our weakness. Our beautiful, terrifying, unpredictable chaos." The first light of dawn was beginning to show through the observatory's windows. Somewhere out there, beyond Neptune's orbit, an alien fleet was approaching. But they were approaching a humanity now armed with knowledge of their weaknesses and something the Krylax had never faced before: the desperate creativity of a species that refused to be conquered. The war for Earth would begin in 90 days. The question was no longer whether humanity would be ready, but whether the Krylax Empire was ready for what humanity would become when pushed to its limits. Earth unites. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the United Nations Security Council, her hand steady despite the weight of the moment. Behind her, screens displayed the Krylax fleet's approach, their ships now visible through Earth's most powerful telescopes. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "in 72 hours since receiving Commander Vela's warning, we've learned more about advanced physics than in the past century. But we've also identified their critical weakness." She gestured to the tactical displays. "The Krylax Empire's power comes from perfect order. Their technology, their strategies, their entire civilization is built on mathematical precision. They've eliminated chaos, and with it, their ability to adapt." The Chinese delegate leaned forward. "And how does this help us against a fleet that outguns our entire planet?" Sarah smiled, pulling up new images. "Because we've already started exploiting it." "Dr. James Patel, please explain Project Chaos." James stepped forward, his usual reserved demeanor energized by excitement. "Their ships use crystalline quantum computers, incredibly powerful, but dependent on perfect mathematical harmonies. We've discovered that random frequency patterns, what we call noise, can disrupt their systems, and humanity excels at creating beautiful noise." The Russian representative frowned. "You want to defeat an alien armada with noise?" "Not just noise," Sarah corrected. "Every asymmetric pattern in nature, solar wind fluctuations, atmospheric turbulence, even human brainwave patterns. They've built their empire on perfect order, never imagining they'd face a species that thrives on imperfection." In the laboratory beneath the UN building, Maya Rodriguez, a 19-year-old programming prodigy, was already demonstrating this principle. Her team had created viral code that mimicked human neural patterns. Chaotic, adaptable, impossible for Krylax systems to predict or counter. "Their firewalls expect perfect attacks," Maya explained to the observers. "They can't handle code that evolves like human thought. We're not just hacking their systems, we're infecting them with humanity's creative chaos." Above them, the Security Council was reaching a historic decision. For the first time in human history, Earth's nations were truly uniting. Not out of fear, but out of recognition that humanity's greatest strength lay in its diversity, its unpredictability, its ability to find brilliant solutions in the messiest corners of existence. The Global Defense Initiative was born that day, combining military forces, scientific knowledge, and cultural diversity into humanity's first unified response to an extraterrestrial threat. As Sarah watched the unanimous vote, she remembered Commander Vela's final message. "Your species has qualities we lost long ago. We're ready for Phase 2, she announced. Across the planet, preparation accelerated. Quantum physicists worked alongside street artists, finding inspiration in graffiti patterns for disrupting alien shield harmonics. Military strategists studied improvisational jazz, learning to create battle plans that flowed like music rather than marching in predictable formations. In orbit, the International Space Station had become humanity's first line of defense. Commander Diana Jackson watched as her crew installed Maya's chaos pattern generators alongside traditional weapons. "They expect us to fight like a primitive species," she broadcast to the growing defense fleet. "Instead, we'll show them how primitive species survive, by breaking every rule they think we should follow." The Krylax fleet would arrive in 45 days. Humanity would be ready, not with overwhelming force, but with something far more powerful: the creative chaos that had taken them from caves to the stars in a cosmic blink of an eye. As Sarah looked at the tactical displays showing the approaching fleet, she felt not fear, but anticipation. The Krylax were about to learn why Earth's history was filled with stories of small, clever forces defeating vast, powerful empires. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or numbers. It was their ability to look at the impossible and say, "Let's try it anyway." The countdown to contact had begun. Humanity's response would either be their finest hour or their last stand. Either way, the Krylax Empire was about to discover that primitive didn't mean what they thought it meant. The battle begins. The first Krylax ships emerged from hyperspace in perfect geometric formation, their crystalline hulls refracting sunlight in mesmerizing patterns. Admiral Sophia Patel watched from the bridge of the EDS Resilience, humanity's hastily retrofitted flagship. Beside her, Maya Rodriguez's fingers danced across her quantum interface, monitoring the alien fleet's communications. "They're broadcasting surrender terms," Maya reported, her voice steady despite her youth. "Very formal, very mathematical. Their algorithms predict a 99.97% chance we'll submit within 6 hours." Sophia allowed herself a small smile. "Let's introduce some chaos into those calculations. Initiate Operation Dissonance." Across Earth's orbital defense grid, humanity unleashed its first surprise. Instead of conventional weapons, they transmitted waves of orchestrated disorder. Quantum noise patterned on everything from jazz improvisations to ocean wave frequencies. The effect on the Krylax fleet was immediate. Their perfect formation wavered as their crystalline computers struggled to process signals that defied their mathematical models. Ships designed to handle any known weapon were bewildered by humanity's weaponized chaos. "Their shield harmonics are destabilizing," Maya called out. "Deploying viral code now." The code, based on human neural patterns, slipped through gaps in the Krylax's perfect defenses. Their rigid systems, unable to adapt to such organic, evolving attacks, began experiencing cascading failures. But the Krylax weren't conquered thousands of worlds by being easily defeated. Their supreme commander, High Admiral Nexus, quickly ordered countermeasures. The alien fleet split into smaller, still geometrically perfect formations, adapting their shields to the new threat. "They're learning," Sophia observed. "Time for Phase 2. All units, execute Operation Firefly." Earth's defenders scattered in seemingly random patterns, movements based on swarm intelligence studies of fireflies, and starling murmurations. Small, agile fighters darted between the larger Krylax vessels, their paths unpredictable yet somehow coordinated. "Their targeting systems can't lock onto us," reported Wing Commander Raj Singh, leading the fighter squadron. "They're trying to predict our movements using standard combat algorithms, but we're flying like a flock of birds." The battle spread across near-Earth space, a clash between perfect order and beautiful chaos. Humanity's ships moved like dancers in a cosmic ballet, while the Krylax struggled to maintain their rigid formations. Maya's team struck again, this time with code that mimicked the spread of forest fires, chaotic yet following deep natural patterns. Krylax communication networks began to break down as their quantum crystalline processors were overwhelmed by data that refused to follow their rules. But victory seemed far from certain. Despite the disruption, the alien fleet's superior technology was still inflicting heavy losses. Sophia watched as several human ships were caught by the Krylax's energy weapons, their crews forced to evacuate into emergency pods. "They're adapting faster than expected," Maya warned. "Their AI is starting to recognize some of our patterns." Sophia nodded grimly. "Then it's time to show them true human unpredictability. Initiate Protocol Wildcard." This was humanity's riskiest gambit yet, deliberately introducing random elements into their own strategy. Ships began executing maneuvers based on dice rolls, their trajectories determined by chaos theory calculations. The Krylax response was revealing. Their perfect formations began to show signs of confusion, their responses becoming increasingly erratic as they faced an enemy that defied prediction. "High Admiral Nexus is requesting direct communication," Maya announced suddenly. Sophia straightened her uniform. "Put them through." The image that appeared showed a tall, crystalline being, their form as geometrically perfect as their ships. "You fight." Strangely, Nexus stated, their translator struggling with the concept. "We fight like humans," Sophia replied. "Chaos is our natural state." The battle paused briefly as both sides assessed each other. The future of Earth hung in the balance, but humanity had already achieved something remarkable. They had made the mighty Krylax Empire question its assumptions about primitive species. The real test was about to begin. Innovation versus tradition. High Admiral Nexus's crystalline features showed no emotion, but their voice carried a hint of what might have been confusion. "Your tactics defy all strategic logic. Your ships move without pattern. Your code evolves like living things. How can you coordinate such chaos?" From her command station, Sophia allowed herself a small smile. "Perhaps that's why we're still here, when your simulations said we should have surrendered hours ago." The diplomatic exchange was interrupted by Maya's urgent call. "Admiral, they're repositioning. Massive energy buildup in their primary fleet." The Krylax ships were indeed moving, arranging themselves into a perfect dodecahedron formation that seemed to pulse with power. "Your resistance, while fascinating, ends now," Nexus declared. "Behold the true might of perfect order." Energy beams connected the Krylax vessels, forming a crystalline lattice of destructive power. It was beautiful, mathematical, and absolutely lethal. This was the formation that had broken the defenses of 1,000 worlds. But Earth wasn't like those other worlds. "Execute Operation Butterfly," Sophia commanded. Named after the chaos theory concept where a butterfly's wings could cause a hurricane, Operation Butterfly was humanity's wildest gambit yet. Every human ship began broadcasting different frequencies, each based on natural phenomena. The resonance of wind through canyons, the rhythm of ocean waves, the electromagnetic pulses of lightning storms. The effect on the Krylax energy lattice was immediate. Like a crystal exposed to discordant frequencies, their perfect formation began to show microscopic flaws. "Their energy grid is destabilizing," Maya reported, her fingers flying across her console. "Deploying Phase 2 viral code now." This code was different from their earlier attacks. Instead of trying to break the Krylax systems, it began to merge with them, introducing elements of human neural patterns into their crystalline computing architecture. It was like injecting chaos into the heart of perfect order. High Admiral Nexus's image flickered as their communications were affected. What is happening to our systems?" "We're teaching them to dance," Maya explained, unable to hide her excitement. "Your computers are learning to think like humans." The effect rippled through the Krylax fleet. Ships began moving in new ways, their actions becoming less predictable, more organic. Some crews, their neural interfaces affected by the hybrid code, started experiencing something they'd never known before: creativity. "Impossible," Nexus whispered, watching their perfect formation dissolve into something new, something alive. "Our systems are perfect. They cannot change." "That's your weakness," Sophia replied. "Perfect things can't evolve. They can't adapt. They can't survive." But victory wasn't assured yet. Some Krylax ships, their crews resisting the change, began firing desperately at Earth's defenders. The space around Earth became a battlefield between not just two fleets, but two philosophies, the perfect crystalline order of the Krylax versus humanity's creative chaos. As the battle reached its crescendo, Maya made a startling discovery. "Admiral, look at this. The Krylax ships that have integrated our code, they're not just fighting differently. They're starting to communicate with each other in new ways. They're innovating." Sophia watched as the space battle transformed into something unprecedented. Ships from both sides were moving in patterns that had never been seen before, creating a deadly but beautiful dance of order and chaos. The fate of Earth would be decided not by who had the superior technology, but by whose philosophy would prevail. The rigid perfection of the Krylax, or humanity's embrace of beautiful chaos. And in the crystalline halls of the Krylax ships, something was awakening. A realization that perhaps perfection wasn't the ultimate goal after all. Victory through understanding. In the midst of the space battle, something unprecedented occurred. Several Krylax ships, their systems now infused with human-inspired chaos patterns, began moving in formation with Earth's defenders. Their crystalline hulls pulsed with new frequencies, harmonizing with the natural rhythms that humanity had weaponized. "High Admiral Nexus," Maya called out, her voice filled with wonder. "Your ships, they're evolving." The Krylax leader's image flickered on the command screen, their perfect crystalline features showing signs of internal conflict. Impossible. And yet, they paused, studying data streams from their affected vessels. "Our crews report feelings, intuition, things we engineered out of our species centuries ago." Sophia stepped forward. "Your empire sought perfection through order, but you lost something vital in the process. The ability to grow, to change, to imagine new possibilities." The battle around them had transformed. Ships from both fleets were now moving in hybrid patterns, neither purely chaotic nor perfectly ordered, but something new, a dance of evolution and adaptation. "Our history," Nexus spoke slowly, as if discovering something long forgotten, "speaks of a time before the Great Optimization, when our species still knew change. We thought we had achieved ultimate power through perfect order, but looking at your species," Maya's console lit up with new data. "Admiral, the Krylax neural networks, they're not just adapting our patterns, they're creating new ones. Their entire crystalline computing architecture is reorganizing itself." Across the Krylax fleet, a revolution was taking place. Crews exposed to humanity's creative chaos were experiencing something their species had lost generations ago. The joy of discovery, the thrill of uncertainty, the power of innovation. "Perhaps," Sophia suggested, "this isn't a battle that needs to be won through destruction. Maybe it's already been won through transformation." High Admiral Nexus was silent for a long moment, their crystalline form refracting light in new, unpredictable patterns. Finally, they spoke. "For millennia, we conquered worlds seeking to spread perfect order throughout the galaxy. But you, the species we deemed primitive, have shown us what we lost in our quest for perfection." The Krylax command ship's weapons powered down, followed by others across their fleet. "We came to conquer Earth," Nexus declared, "but instead, Earth has freed us from our own constraints." In the following days, as peace negotiations began, something remarkable emerged. The Krylax, their systems now capable of embracing both order and chaos, shared their advanced technology with Earth. In return, humanity taught them what they had forgotten: the art of improvisation, the power of creativity, the strength found in imperfection. Maya and her team worked with Krylax engineers to develop a new form of quantum computing that combined crystalline precision with organic adaptability. "It's like teaching mathematics to dance," she explained to Sophia, watching as the hybrid systems created patterns of breathtaking beauty and complexity. The invasion that was meant to subjugate Earth instead became the catalyst for an unprecedented partnership. The Krylax Empire transformed into an alliance of worlds, with Earth as a key member, combining the best of both civilizations. We thought we were perfect, Nexus reflected during the signing of the Earth-Krylax Accord. But perfection, we learned, is the enemy of growth. You showed us that true strength lies not in eliminating chaos, but in learning to dance with it. As Earth's first ambassadors prepared to visit Krylax worlds, Sophia stood with Maya on the observation deck of the Resilience, watching their former enemy ships now moving in harmony with human vessels. We didn't just survive, Sophia mused, we helped an entire civilization rediscover its soul. Maya nodded, her hands working on new code that merged human creativity with Krylax precision. Maybe that's humanity's true purpose in the universe, not to achieve perfection, but to remind others of the beauty of imperfection. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if celebrating the beginning of a new era, one where order and chaos, perfection and creativity, danced together in endless possibility. The primitive species that was meant to be conquered had instead become a teacher, showing an ancient empire that the most perfect thing of all is the ability to keep growing, changing, and imagining new ways to dance among the stars.